My name is Cale Thornwell. I'm 38 years old, and for the past 15 years, I've lived and breathed technology. Every line of code, every system upgrade, every late-night debugging session, it was all me. I was the backbone of the biggest tech company in the city. The man behind the curtain. That morning started like any other. I was sitting in my glass-walled office, sunlight pouring through, holding my usual black coffee. The screens in front of me were alive with numbers and data I knew like the back of my hand. But deep inside, something felt off. Like a whisper in the silence that I tried to ignore. Then came the knock on my door. Lyra and Draven stepped in without warning. No email, no meeting invite, nothing. Lyra's fake smile was there, just like every time when things go wrong. Cale, she said sweetly, you're not part of the future anymore. We're letting you go. Effective immediately. My heart froze. I blinked, trying to find words, but all that came out was a dry. Why? Draven adjusted his glasses, voice cold and mechanical. Evolution, Cale. Systems change, and so do people. You're outdated. It felt like a punch to the gut. Everything I'd built, every sleepless night, every sacrifice, wiped away in minutes. They called in IT to pack up my files. Security escorted me out. Just like that, I was a ghost in a company I helped create. At home, Sarah knew without me saying a word. The heaviness in my eyes said it all. We held each other in silence. That night, I couldn't even speak. I had no answers. Next morning, my son Elian arrived from London. He wasn't just my kid, he was my biggest fan and my secret hope. He pulled out his camera and said, "Dad, people deserve to know the truth." I wanted to say yes. But honestly, I had no idea where to start. Late at night, when the world was asleep, I found myself awake, staring at my laptop. I dove into the system's deepest files, the ones they thought I wouldn't find. And there it was. Logs of secret changes, hidden updates done after I was out. This wasn't just routine maintenance. Something dark was buried deep in the code, something they wanted to keep hidden. I leaned back, a small, dangerous smile creeping across my face. "You thought you buried me, huh?" I whispered to the empty room. "But you forgot something. I was the one who dug the hole." I couldn't shake that feeling. The more I thought about those hidden logs, the more I realized I'd been blind for too long. This wasn't just corporate politics or a simple firing, it was a calculated move. Someone was using the company's own system as a weapon, and I was the first to notice. But who? And why? I needed help. Someone who understood the dark corners of this digital world. Milo. My old partner, the guy who could make firewalls tremble and break through the toughest encryptions. But I hadn't heard from him in months. He'd vanished after leaving the company, probably scared or maybe hiding from the same enemy. Tracking Milo down wasn't easy. I checked every contact, every hidden message, every whisper. Finally, a lead took me to a tiny, shadowy cafe on the edge of the city. The kind of place where people didn't ask questions and no one noticed strangers. When I saw Milo sitting there, sipping black coffee and scanning the room like a hawk, I knew this was the right place. I slid into the seat across from him. His eyes didn't soften. "You shouldn't have come here, Cale," he said quietly. But I was past fear. I laid it all out, the firing, the hidden code, the logs that screamed cover up. Milo's face darkened. "This is bigger than you think," he said, voice low. "They aren't just hiding secrets, they're controlling everything. Every server, every connection, every move. You've stumbled onto something deadly." I leaned in. "Then why me? Why now?" He shrugged. "Because you were always the key. You designed the system's backbone. You know where the weaknesses are, and they know it too. That's why they had to push you out." We spent hours that night pulling thread after thread, digging deeper into layers of encrypted files, hidden admin backdoors, and ghost accounts that vanished whenever anyone tried to trace them. The system felt alive, watching, waiting, ready to strike. Every discovery made me more paranoid. I started seeing shadows in every reflection, hearing footsteps behind me, feeling eyes on my back. This wasn't just a fight for a job anymore. It was survival. Milo warned me. They have eyes everywhere. Cameras, mics, even the code itself. If you want to expose this, you need to be smarter, faster, and invisible. But giving up? No chance. Because somewhere inside me, the fire was burning brighter than ever. I wasn't just a victim, I was becoming the hunter. I packed my laptop, grabbed an old USB drive with encrypted files, and prepared for what was coming next. The game had changed. And now, I was ready to play on my terms. I slipped out of my apartment just before dawn, the cold morning air biting at my skin. The city was still half asleep, wrapped in the quiet haze that made the streets feel both empty and full of hidden dangers. Every sound seemed sharper, the distant rumble of a bus, the creak of old fire escapes, even my own footsteps echoing off the cracked pavement. I wasn't just stepping outside, I was stepping into a war zone I couldn't yet see. Milo had arranged a safe house for me, tucked away in a forgotten corner of the city. It was a small, nondescript brick building hidden behind tangled vines and graffiti-tagged walls. The perfect place to disappear. No cameras, no digital footprints, no easy way to track me down. The perfect place to start fighting back. Inside, the room was dimly lit by dozens of computer monitors flickering with endless lines of code, maps, and encrypted files. Milo sat hunched over his keyboard, his face bathed in the cold blue glow. His eyes, sharp and restless, never left the screens. "We've got something," he muttered without looking up. "There's a subnetwork buried deep beneath the system, something they call the Veil. This is where the real control lies, the heart of the corruption. If we can get in, we might be able to expose everything." My chest tightened. This was it, the real prize. The place they'd done everything to hide from the world. But as we started peeling back the layers, it became clear that this wasn't going to be easy. Every step forward was met with a dozen barriers: complex encryption, fake logs, digital tripwires designed to mislead or trap us. It was like fighting a ghost that always slipped through your fingers, lurking just out of reach. Days blurred into nights as we worked, our eyes burning from staring at screens, caffeine fueling our exhaustion. I found myself jumping at every noise: the flicker of a shadow outside the window, a creak from the floorboards, a sudden burst of static from the router. Paranoia seeped in slowly but surely. Every discovery made me more paranoid. I started seeing shadows in every reflection, hearing footsteps behind me, feeling eyes on my back. This wasn't just a fight for a job anymore. It was survival. One night, while running a scan for backdoors into the Veil, the power suddenly cut out. The monitors went black, the room plunged into silence except for the steady drip of rain outside. My heart hammered loud enough to drown out everything else. Then, suddenly, a message flickered on one of the screens as the emergency generator kicked in. "You're getting too close, Thornwell." A chill ran down my spine. They knew my name. They knew I was here. Milo slammed his fist on the table, eyes blazing with anger. "They're onto us. We need to move. Now." I grabbed my laptop, a couple of drives loaded with encrypted files, and a small pack with essentials. Every nerve screamed to run, but I stayed calm. I had to. I didn't hesitate. With Milo right behind me, we slipped out through the back exit of the safe house, vanishing into the cold, rain-soaked streets. The wind sliced through my coat, and the city around us pulsed with danger. Neon signs flickered above shuttered storefronts, casting eerie reflections on the wet pavement. Everything looked familiar, yet nothing felt safe. We moved fast, weaving through alleyways, sticking to the shadows. The plan was simple: disappear. No patterns, no digital trails, no room for mistakes. But even in the anonymity of the city, I felt the weight of unseen eyes pressing down on me. They knew my name. They knew where I was. We ducked into a crowded subway station: no cameras, No facial recognition down there if you moved fast enough. As we stood waiting for the train, a man across the platform stared too long. My pulse spiked. Milo noticed too. "Eyes down," he muttered. "We're ghosts now. Act like it." The train roared into the station, and we slipped aboard. As the doors closed, I caught one last glimpse of that man. He was gone. Or maybe he never existed. We got off 3 stops later, changed lines, walked 2 miles in the rain. Finally, we arrived at a building that looked condemned from the outside. Milo punched in a code on a rusted side door, and it opened to a new safe house. Smaller, darker, colder than the last. The room was nearly empty. A mattress in the corner. A makeshift workstation powered by a backup generator. No windows. No signals. But we had what we needed: data, time, and desperation. That night, I stared at the files again. My fingers trembled as I scrolled through lines of code, hidden protocols, internal memos, and redacted messages. Buried in all of it was a name I hadn't seen before: Project Aeon. I turned to Milo. "What is this?" He blinked hard, processing. "It's a control algorithm. Not for users. For populations." My stomach twisted. He continued, voice low. "They're using the system to push narratives. Control decisions. Elections. Markets. Emotions." It hit me like a train. This wasn't about me. It was about everyone. They weren't just silencing voices. They were writing the script for the whole world. "We need proof," I said. "Enough to blow this open." Milo nodded. "Then we need access to the core server." I froze. That meant going back. Back into the heart of the company. Back into the belly of the machine that chewed me up and spit me out. "You said no digital trail?" I reminded him. "I did. That's why we'll go analog." He reached into a duffel bag and pulled out an old badge, a magnetic lockpick, and a folded map of the company's underground data center. "This is where it lives," he said, tapping a red X. "No one walks out of there unless they belong. But you built the place." The room fell silent. The rain tapped gently against the metal roof. "I'm in," I said finally. But I wasn't just going back to retrieve data. I was going back to burn it all down. The plan was simple. Dangerous, but simple. Milo and I would infiltrate the underground data center where Project Aeon was housed, physically stored beneath the sleek facade of the very building I used to call home. I'd spent years designing its infrastructure. Every corridor, every server room, every emergency override switch. I knew it better than anyone. That was my advantage. My curse. My weapon. We set out just after midnight. Disguises in place, analog tools packed. No phones. No trace. Milo handed me the forged security badge and nodded. "You sure about this?" "No," I said. "But I'm done running." We made our way through the city's underbelly, service tunnels, maintenance routes, forgotten passages that snaked beneath the skyline like veins. The air was damp and stale, filled with the hum of unseen machinery. My breath echoed louder than it should have. Every step felt like it could be the one that set everything off. As we approached the service entrance to the data center, my hands trembled. Not from fear. From adrenaline. This was the heart of the machine. Where the puppeteers pulled the strings. A biometric scanner blocked our path. I stepped forward, placing my hand on the cold glass. The system hesitated. Then, with a soft beep, it unlocked. I was still in the system. They never removed me. We slipped inside. The air grew colder, drier. Lights buzzed overhead. Surveillance cameras blinked red in the corners, but we stayed out of sight, ducking into access corridors I had designed myself. We reached the mainframe vault, a steel door 6 inches thick, guarded by a rotating code panel. Milo handed me the device. "You built the locks. You open them." I typed in the sequence I swore I'd never use again. Click. The door hissed open. Inside, the core glowed with pale blue light. Dozens of humming towers stacked like monoliths, each one pulsing with billions of secrets. The digital heart of an empire built on silence. I approached the main terminal and inserted the encrypted drive. Lines of code flooded the screen, unlocking layers one by one. I dug deeper. And there it was. Project Aeon, Global Sentiment Override Initiative. A system designed to manipulate the emotional currents of society, through news algorithms, product placements, targeted outrage, and synthetic consensus. It didn't just watch people. It steered them. I started copying files. One by one. Milo kept watch by the door. Then a soft beep. Unauthorized access detected. The lights shifted. Red. They know, Milo hissed. You've got 60 seconds, maybe less. I ripped the drive out, shoved it in my pocket. And then, on impulse, I opened a hidden terminal. One only senior architects knew existed. What are you doing? Milo barked. I didn't answer. I was rewriting the kill switch. If I triggered it, Aeon would start deleting itself from the inside, one server at a time. No backups. No rebuilds. 30 seconds left. I hovered over the final command. And I paused. This wasn't just data. This was power. Proof. Evidence. If I destroyed it now, no one would ever know what had been done to them. But if I let it live, it could fall into the wrong hands all over again. I made my choice. I saved the files. Then triggered the partial collapse, just enough to corrupt their control, not the truth. The building shuddered. A siren wailed. Milo and I bolted through the emergency exit as the lights behind us flickered and died. By the time we reached the street, the company's digital nerve center was already unraveling. We did it, Milo said, breathless. No, I replied. We started it. It's strange how quiet the world feels just before it changes. I sat in the back of a beat-up sedan, laptop humming on my knees, watching raindrops race down the window. The city outside moved like it always had, indifferent, fast, distracted. No one knew that tonight, everything was about to break open. Milo was up front, tapping nervously on his phone. Across from me sat Jessa, the journalist. Sharp eyes. Worn leather jacket. She didn't say much, but I could feel the questions burning inside her. And next to her, Camden, the lawyer. Ex-regulator turned whistleblower protector. He had the kind of calm that made you trust him, or fear what he was capable of. This is all of it? Jessa finally asked, her voice low. I nodded. Everything. Logs. Memos. Project Aeon's original charter. User manipulation scripts. Beta testing on civilians. The works. She exhaled slowly. You know, once we drop this, there's no going back. I've been gone a long time, I said. We moved to a secure location, a hidden server hub Milo knew about. As we uploaded the files to mirrored nodes around the world, Jessa prepped the article. It wasn't just a leak. It was a story, the story. Names. Faces. Actions. Intent. The real machinery behind what had shaped news, policy, even thoughts. Camden coordinated legal protections for the sources, gathering ex-employees, buried emails, contract clauses that confirmed everything. We weren't just throwing data into the wind. We were crafting an undeniable truth bomb. By dawn, the first wave hit. News outlets. Underground forums. Secure blogs. Then the major channels. They couldn't ignore it once the story reached critical mass. Project Aeon exposed. Digital manipulation program targeted civilians. Corporate government alliance under investigation. Social feeds lit up like firestorms. People didn't know whether to panic or cheer. Some still refused to believe it. Others said they always knew. But no one could look away. By midday, subpoenas were issued. Offices raided. Arrests made. Lyra vanished. Draven tried to deny everything, until footage of a closed-door briefing leaked with his voice instructing teams to accelerate behavioral redirection testing. Game over. And me? I stayed hidden. For now. I watched from the shadows as the empire I helped build, and then tried to destroy, collapsed under the weight of its own lies. That night, Jess's report aired on Global Broadcast. Her voice was steady, her tone cold. For years, they told us it was about progress, efficiency, connection. But it was never about making life better. It was about control. Thought by thought, line by line of code. Thanks to a few brave insiders, and one man who refused to stay buried, the truth is finally out. I closed my laptop. Outside, people had gathered. Talking. Shouting. Some crying. But for the first time in a long time, they weren't sleepwalking anymore. Milo stood beside me on the rooftop, watching it unfold. So, he said, what now? I looked out over the city. Now we rebuild. Thought by thought. Line by line.